Brad Wilson and Representative Francis Gibson. We'd like to have press availability on a daily basis. We think that it's, unless you want to make Friday casual and blow it off for Fridays, it's up to you. But we want to increase the conduit of communication for those that we represent and the hard work we do. We would like the public to have a better understanding of this work. So it's harder when you have 104 lawmakers and 75 House members, but we want to do that. And so we want to make ourselves available for the questions that you have. And I think it's a symbiotic relationship. We appreciate you being here and helping us communicate the work we do. And we're also here to give you greater context to the bills we consider and the decisions that we make. So with that, I am, unless there's some comments from our leadership team that they'd like to make, I'm ready to open the floor for questions. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
No. Judging from your remarks this morning, I take it you're not a fan of Healthy Utah or the governor's proposal.
See, I wondered how, Ben, you would digest that speech. I thought that we were very aspirational and coming together and finding some smart policy. I thought it was important to kind of describe for the public some of the concerns or some of the things that make it a hard decision or one that we have to get really deep into the data and into what we're talking about. So it was important to highlight that. But I think that the speech also said that we want to work with our good governor. We think that he's done a great job in those negotiations with the Obama administration. And we want that to inform our process. We've got great colleagues across the board that will help us figure out what it is that we'll do.
You seem to be trying to set a slightly different tone in terms of your relationship and the relationship with the House with the governor. Can you talk a little bit about that?
What tone do you refer to? I don't know the difference. We're just let me just say this. Politics is addition. Okay, if you're going to get anything done up here, you need 38 or more in the House, 15 or more in the Senate, and you need that governor to sign what lands on his desk. I don't know how you get there by dividing or parsing or trying to huddle in small corners. I think you have to come together, and I think that's what the legislature's always been about. But we're going to reach out, and we're going to make sure those conduits of communication are open. And I think we all have the end goal in mind, and I think it's the same. It's just we have a process here in the legislature where you have duly elected representatives and state senators that have strong ideas and beliefs and expertise, and we just got to sort through that in the next 45 days.
Speaker, I spoke with a representative earlier today who called this the most ambitious agenda he's seen in his time as a lawmaker. Would you agree with that? And how do you see it playing out under your leadership?
I'll tell you this, I feel that we have some of the greatest challenges in front of us as a legislature and as a state. It's time, and this is what we talked about. And by the way, that speech is also a culmination of the conversations that we as a leadership team have had with our colleagues. We have had an all-day caucus where we have really drilled down on critical issues to see what the pulse would be. And I think you have the leadership in the House that we're ready to confront some of these big challenges. And so it is an ambitious agenda in terms of what we take on, but that's because these are good problems to have in a state that's growing as fast as ours is, where the economy is stronger than most other states in this country. And those are growing pains, and those are things that we better get right as a legislative body. And I think we are prepared to take on that task.
Going back to Medicaid, Representative Dunnigan, I wanted to ask you, I know that you were supposed to meet with the Lieutenant Governor and Dr. Patton recently to try to come to some kind of agreement or make some headway on the Healthy Utah issue. Can you talk about where that is right now?
So in the last week, we met with the Lieutenant Governor. Representative Gibson was there. We had about a dozen representatives, Dr. Patton, a couple of other representatives from the health department, as well as Lieutenant Governor. I thought the meeting went well. It was very frank. It was an extremely frank meeting, very forthright. And, as we kind of, at the end of the meeting, as we were evaluating how it went, there was, one comment from the executive branch trying to measure how productive or how effective the meeting was. And I said, we only had 2 of the 12 representatives that strangled each other. That's progress. I mean, that really is. And we have, as the speaker alluded to, we have 63 members in the House Majority Caucus, and as well as our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And we're trying to find a plan that will take care of Utahns that is sustainable, affordable, and still addresses the uncertainty, significant uncertainty that exists in Medicaid expansion. And almost daily, you can read that other states are unwinding what they've done or trying to advance what they've done. The federal government's changing, and so it's a very much a moving platform.
Have you found that plan that you're looking for?
Well, there needs to be consensus, and so I'm still working. I really hope, I really do. I hope that the governor and the legislature can come to that common ground. We worked hard on it last week, and Representative Gibson may want to add to that. I thought it was productive and that we vetted the issues, we vetted options, alternatives, but we have more work to do.
Beyond the governor and the legislature, however, you still would need federal approval. And there's a lot of concern that the governor spent so much time seeking federal approval that this decision between, whatever Utah's solution is and the federal government signing off on it will just be even more time. Are you concerned about that?
Well, this is going to be a generational decision. And so while we are well aware that people need health care and that the folks that fall in the coverage gap need treatment for their medical conditions, it does not suit our state well to worry about having to make a quick decision to satisfy the desires of the federal government. We've got to make sure it's sustainable for our own state, and we've got to find that right mix of taking care of the people who really need help and helping people up so that we can help them have a better life. And the governor's done a terrific job. I've been fortunate to travel on a couple of trips with him in the negotiations. But there's the federal government, the governor, and us, and we all have a piece in this.
Do you have another meeting scheduled of this group or representatives of the executive and legislative branches?
No, but we will. Well, I haven't told the executive branch that yet, okay? But the intent is, this is, as I said, as you could put myself and Lieutenant Governor in the room, and we could probably solve it in 5 minutes if it was just up to us. But he has to answer to somebody, and then we have the federal government that likes to mix things up. So it's technical, it's complicated. We're even requested revised numbers from the actuary. There's still some concerns on the numbers. So I plan to have some additional meetings.
Do you also anticipate an answer from the Obama administration on changes to that work requirement that have been promised?
I actually thought that we already had the answer, because the day after the governor requested it, after we met with President Obama, the HHS spokesperson said, yeah, we've received that request, but a work requirement is not a part of Medicaid, and it won't be a part of Medicaid. So there may be more to that story, but from the release that came out of HHS, it looked to me that was not like it was not going to happen.
Did that not come up in your meeting last week?
It did not. But I will tell you, that's an issue. There are bigger issues than that. I mean, there's issues of $136 million and 100,000 Utahns. Those are the big issues. Work requirements, a smaller piece of it.
How confident are you that you and the governor can come up to a solution that the federal government will sign off on during this session?
I'm comfortable that the House can put forward a plan that the federal government will sign off on. It remains to be seen whether or not the governor will sign off on that as well. And Representative Gibson, you were there. How would you characterize that meeting?
You're the majority leader, you spoke so eloquently.
I tell you, I have to say, I like Representative Gibson being the whip, okay? And they said, then again, are you the one that cracks down? I said, no, I've got a linebacker for a whip. All I have to do is pull the lever, and then we're off to the races.
And he agrees with you in public, so what more could you ask?
I want to ask about an issue that wasn't on any of the big agendas spoken in the House or the Senate this morning, but tomorrow midday, there's a protest outside the Capitol about Representative Ray's proposal to bring back the firing squad. I wanted to get your take on this proposal and the attention it's already attracting.
I was unaware that there's a protest tomorrow. The death penalty has been an issue that's been around for a long, long time. There's strong opinions about capital punishment. I think that what inspired the representative, I don't want to speak for him, but I think there have been some terrible stories about the way that capital punishment has been administered, whether it was even humane through lethal injection and what has happened. There's some concerns that there could be a quicker way or a more efficient way, in a way that if you're going to have a law that allows for the death penalty, that you do it so that that person isn't suffering unnecessarily. And I think there's an argument that that might be the case. So I think it's a question that really centers around whether it's appropriate to have the death penalty. I've heard a quote from Edith Bunker on All in the Family. It said, "I'm for the death penalty so long as it's not too violent." I think that's what the death penalty is, what capital punishment is. So in terms of the process you go through, I think efficiency would probably be something that you would be concerned about. But that's the topic of the death penalty that I don't think we're going to resolve or answer in this session in terms of pros and cons.
Do you support the firing squad bill?
I have to look at the bill. I'm taking my direction from good Speaker Lockhart when she wouldn't give you an opinion about a bill without being able to thoroughly read that bill and consider its consequences. And I've not seen that bill yet.
What about non-discrimination bills that are coming up? The religious freedom bills, the LGBT non-discrimination bills. There's been some discussion about maybe putting these on hold, given that the Supreme Court's taking up same-sex marriage. Anything on that?
Let me just say, I have been curious. I've been disappointed. I really felt that if there was ever a time to consider same-sex marriage, the definition of marriage, I thought that the Utah's appeal that was sought to be brought before the U.S. Supreme Court was a pretty good case. I mean, this state became a state conditioned on the definition of marriage. And I think that as lawmakers, we had done a very good job of not bleeding the issues and creating protected classes in one case and ignoring those in others. I thought that we had a very strong case. I was surprised to see that, I call it the non-decision decision, where that case was not heard. We saw rights granted. We saw movement from that decision, non-decision decision. And now we do see the Supreme Court pulling back and looking to consider it. I'm not sure, sitting here now, what the legal ramifications of all these things are. I think the state has now started to grant marriage licenses, and I don't know how you pull that back necessarily, but I'm open to the legal discussions and concerns that would be brought before our attention. I will tell you this, in terms of our anti-discrimination bills or protect religious freedom bills, we have a great process here. I don't think this leadership team is looking to short circuit our process for any particular bill. But remember, that process is one that you have a rules committee and you have standing committees, and we are encouraging our House members to really get dig deep into these bills and do their job and really contemplate their impact, whether there needs to be amendments. There's a big process that needs to go through here at the Capitol, and I think that bill, or any bill, is going to have to go through a kind of a refiner's fire of different committees and different scrutiny. And that's good. That's good for Utah, and that's good for whatever legislation makes it through that kind of process.
So you want them heard this year versus holding off like was done previous?
If someone says that there is a critical reason why you don't want to get out in front of this important Supreme Court decision, I am all ears. And I'm not ready to impose my legal decision or lack of to what might be smart legal strategy overall. So I can't give you a definite answer there, but I'm not looking to, we've spoke as a leadership team, we're not looking to short circuit this process in any way. So we will, unless we hear a very strong and legal argument that would say that we would be putting this state at a disadvantage legally, I think that we will just see a process go forward here, but know that the process is meant to be a tough one. It's a high hill to climb, as it should be for all legislation.
Speaker, do you want to clarify what your vision for the Rules Committee is?
Yes, thank you. Our Assistant Whip brings up a very good point. So we have put together, I think, an important Rules Committee. When I was on the I was Vice Chair of the Rules Committee back when we were in the temporary chambers. I don't know what year that was. But Senator Urquhart was the chair of our Rules Committee at the time. And we had what he called the wiki. I don't know, Senator Urquhart is the first guy to get out there on blogs and start communicating through technology. He's been a leader that way. Well, we have this session, a wiki, for members of the Rules Committee to access bills that are in the Rules Committee's possession. And that's Republican and Democrat alike that are on this committee. Every member will be able to put bills, and it'll depend on the flow of the bills that we send to committees, but they will each and individually be able to select bills to put on the Rules Committee for assignment. So to put them on a committee and to pick the committees that they are to go to. Now here's the good part. That Rules Committee needs to do their work. They need to be able to sift. And so inherent to a process where everybody has access to building that list also comes the process of being able to make motions and maybe move bills to other standing committees for consideration or lifting bills from the list. And so there's a lot of autonomy that's going to be felt by that Rules Committee, but that's a good thing. We've worked very hard to put leaders and good policymakers on our Rules Committee, but I think that refiner's fire has gotten even hotter now with the way the Rules Committee has been put together. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the kind of work that you're going to see coming out of the Rules Committee. And I think that members need to know they've got to do their work and they've got to have good legislation to present, because the bills that are going to go to these standing committees have got to be ready, and they've got to be ready for further consideration.
Back to non-discrimination bills and the potential. The governor said that he prefers to see it taken care of at a municipal level, which we have seen throughout the state, as opposed to a statewide law. What's your thought on that?
You know, sitting right here, I don't have a strong opinion. I am like many of our members. I'm waiting for the debate, and I'm waiting to be walked through the different legal ramifications. I am profoundly confused, or I don't know if it's disappointed, but really, I had put my eye, and I was really putting my apples in one barrel in terms of the state's case before the U.S. Supreme Court. When that didn't happen, I'm all ears to what legally we're to do and what ramifications are in front of us. I don't have a strong opinion yet.
Isn't that a discussion you expect to have soon, though, Speaker? You don't want these bills to start moving through the process and then suddenly have to halt them, do you?
There will be no problem with the amount of commentary and debate and discussion that will come forward now that we've started our session. And I am positive that the different opinions and the concerns will be brought to our attention, as well as all of our colleagues' attention. So I don't think, I think the process has begun. At least it's hard for us, and it was hard as we began this session to just have our arms around every single thing. And we had some additional events that made preparation of this session even more challenging. And so I've always believed that much of the session is like getting in the rough rapids of a raft. You get in, you'd like to steer this, but you know what? There's some white waters and there's some things that happen here in the session that kind of drive us as well. So I think we'll get into this and we'll have a very healthy debate.
Can you speak a little bit about the emotion of today? I mean, you addressed it a little bit in your speech, but tough day.
Very tough. You know what? We had a beautiful memorial service this last Thursday. I didn't think you could top how meaningful that was and how much it meant to many of us in the House. And then Thursday's funeral was as powerful or more. And that was something that was a life lesson for me, going to a service like that. So we start our first day, and you know, again, another tough part. But I'll tell you what, I am absolutely convinced that in tough times like we're feeling right now, this House will grow stronger, closer together, and I think it actually, in some ways, helps us recalibrate and remember what's really important. I mean, we get so excited or we get so passionate about issues, and then when you have a morning like this morning, it just kind of lets you realize or reminds us of what's really important and why we're even here and what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Super Bowl predictions?
Seattle.